on his Bravo opponent. There you see on the right-hand side, it is Oren Yishai. I don't know if breakers can go Oren's way. I think Oren is probably closed out from top 8 contention. But Michael Hamilton very much looking for this W. A huge stakes match here. And starting things off with some aggression from the Bravo. It's a buckling blow as the first salvo of this match.
Yeah, and as the first turn here, as Michael is just kind of like looking at his hand, thinking, what to block, I think this is a fairly safe. This looks like a fairly safe block to me, right? You don't want to let that crush hit. It's first turn. You get a drop at the end of the turn. Perhaps you want to maybe leverage your turn 0, as it were, to possibly get a nice little double arsenal here. But yeah, turn 1, a lot of the times it's a very nice and easy block, depending on what you have in your hand, right?
Well, this one, it's not going to be so easy. It is dominated. It is juiced by the Bravo, and that means there's going to be some difficult decisions here for Michael Hamilton. That buckling blow looking pretty good to come through and do a little damage early on in this game.
I mean, Lexi, not really known for blocking, not really having that that fridge of equipment to block with. So there's a very real chance, unless Michael wants to leverage some equipment here, that this
Which you do not as Alexi. You really do not want to put that equipment in.
Looks like he's going to opt to toss in the boots. I mean, Buckling Blow does have that nasty crush on-hit effect that kind of gives that -1 counter to a piece of equipment anyway. So maybe Michael's thoughts are, hey, I'm going to get down on equipment either way.
Yeah.
Might as well toss in the boots here.
Save the life total, and he is going to go ahead and block for 5 here, so no crush effect on that Buckling Blow. And instead, at the end of turn, Michael Hamilton going to go ahead, load up the Arsenal. Already a good card headed the way of the Arsenal. No, it looks like we're just going to go ahead and pitch through. Try and clear out a little space in hand. 3 of a kind, though, at the ready as we head into this next turn.
Definitely see that 3 of a kind. Definitely see that ice card. Didn't even have any...
no arrows. Just had to use the arrow to block. That was the only way to turn off the crush effect. So actually a really awkward hand from Michael Hamilton.
Yeah, as a Lexi player, it's not really what you want to see. And, kind of getting a glimpse at his hand here. Doesn't look like it got that much better, right? Maybe 1 arrow, but I definitely saw another ice card in there.
Yeah, it does have the 3 of a kind that is going to go ahead and clean things up reliably here, does Michael Hamilton. So let's see how he wants to go ahead and navigate this turn. Going to load up that Tunic. 2 ice cards at the ready, is presumably both winner's bites, they look like to me.
I think you're right. I think they are some good old winner's bites here.
Yep, winner's bite blue. Going to start the turn here for Bravo. Ask for a card from hand to be either pitched or discarded.
Yeah, this is kind of interesting. Having 2 in hand is basically what they choose is going to determine whether or not you actually want to commit the second one to play, right? Like, are they going to pitch enough so that they have resources floating, whereas the second one doesn't really get any value, right? They just pay the resources.
Yeah, I think Hamilton's banking on that card to pay for his turn. It is another blue winter's bite.
Makes a lot of sense
here. Through 2 resources floating, 3 cards loaded up. Has a hamstring shot at the ready, it looks like, and I believe found a nice mix of red cards. Looks like Heatseeker, Remorseless, and a bunch of other options to go ahead and start putting pressure on this Bravo.
Yep, definitely smelling like at least a 2-arrow turn here. Coming off the back of like we said, a little bit of an awkward turn 1. What you want to do with Lexi is to kind of load up on turn 1 so you can go into the turn with a, potentially double arsenal. And so here it's going to be a little less impactful than you would like, but with that 3 of a kind, he can at least make the most of the situation. Does have some pretty nice cards in hand. That Remorseless, I can see, could potentially threaten a possible defense reaction from Bravo's arsenal, not letting him be able to use it.
His hand is expensive, though, and it again continues to be a little awkward. I'm not sure if there's another blue in hand for Michael Hamilton, and we see the resources from that winner's bite already used up. So it looks like a drill shot, Heatseeker, and a hamstring shot, I believe. Colors look red to me, so we'll see how this turn evolves from here. If that is true, could go into a future turn without an arsenal here. And this is kind of a disastrous start for Michael Hamilton, quite frankly. I don't think turn 1 went as you wanted it to go. You're certainly not, powerless here, but you had different things in mind when you headed into this turn.
Oh, for sure.
Does have the drill shot, 0 cost, so able to salvage a 2-arrow turn nice and cleanly. What's scary, though, that Bravo just took that Remorseless and didn't really care.
Took it right on the chin. Didn't care about the on-hit effect. That makes sense with Bravo, right? Bravo doesn't want to go wide, so he doesn't really care about the on-hit effect as much. But you got to know, right, as the Lexi player, if Bravo's keeping their hand, that's incredibly scary.
I'm worried about 3 blues and a crippling crush. I'm worried about other combinations of pitch cards and a A Spinal Crush, all of these potentially dominated by Bravo. Already used my key piece of equipment that can bail me out once, so that's gone.
Yeah, I mean, you don't really want to lose that that New Horizon, and Bravo here is just like, he's preserving the cards in his hand, and I think that's pretty telling as to the power of his hand, right? He's like, you know what, I'm going to keep my hand, I'll do whatever it takes to keep it and not have to, take this damage here.
Yeah, this drill shot also demanding some respect as well. You need to commit those equipments now, otherwise they're going to be degraded anyway, so you may as well go ahead and put them in front. And we do see a 3 equipment block on the drill shot, so a nice win there for Michael Hamilton. You love getting that equipment cleared out of the way early, but I am concerned about the clapback here from Oren. Let's see what he has up his arsenal, as it were.
Yeah, as a longtime Lexi player, this is a very, very terrifying position, to be honest, right? Card and arsenal, three in the grip, and you got to be expecting some sort of dominated shenanigans.
Nothing good is going to happen. We know that much. We don't know exactly what's going to happen. We know nothing good is going to happen.
There's a likely chance that something gets crushed, right? We'll see as to what degree, but yeah. Not Lexi, not exactly known for blocking dominate very well.
Yeah. Typical Bravo behavior, just crushing everything around him. Looks like we're going to start the turn with Terror Asunder. Very fine way to go ahead and power up a turn as well. Or dominate stuff going on.
Yeah, speaking of dominate, absolutely love this card. I mean, not only dominate, but also on hit, rips cards out of the hand, which is just nasty.
And able to do it with just enough of those two, and that means you're going to maintain that arsenal for a future turn. So real nice look from the Bravo here.
And this 7 breakpoint is particularly nasty. Yeah, there's not much else to say here. This is a really, really debilitating attack. Coming in for 7 with the dominate, ripping 2 cards out of hand on hit, and that's exactly what Lexi does not want. Lexi wants these cards.
Needs the full grip.
Yeah, you want these arrows to fire off, and this is exactly what you don't want to see, right? After having a really awkward turn 1, Bravo's just kind of rolling with it.
Yeah, the Bravo has come out swinging, and now the key for Oren is to keep pressure up. You have to keep doing this turn after turn after turn. If you give Lexi purchase, she will disrupt you, she will ruin your life, and you just have to keep things rolling.
Yeah, I mean, against these aggro decks, especially Lexi, you want to demand cards from them. To some degree, it doesn't matter exactly what the on-hits are. It's basically just I want cards from you, so you can't shoot me as many times as you can. And, this is a great way to do it. It's not Michael's choice, more or less, whether or not cards are going to come out, because if this hits, cards are coming out of the hand.
Yep, 7 damage headed his way. Going to discard a Rain Razors and a Battering Bolt, it looks like. And I wonder if Michael Hamilton has any access to defense reactions. We occasionally see things like Frailty Trap floating around these lists. I don't know Hamilton's exact list, but so far, no defense reactions at the ready.
Yeah, I would be somewhat surprised if he was running more than Frailty Trap.
Not exactly what you want against the Bravo either, so I'm not sure if they made the cut here. But it is time for a Heat Seeker, turned up by Lexi. And now Voltaire are going to load up a second Heat Seeker, so we do have the makings of a double arrow turn here. Also, should one of these hit, loading face up means you can also load that second one face up. Not bad.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Heat Seeker, and especially in this situation, it gives you this pseudo card advantage, getting that extra card in your arsenal. And the way it works here with Lexi and New Horizon, if both of these hit, you could end up with a double arsenal, right? Because Heat Seeker puts it face up, and so this is a great attack. And similarly, how Bravo wants to demand cards from Lexi, Lexi also wants to demand cards from Bravo, because you don't want him to be able to do these really nasty big dominated attacks.
Yeah, and I think Hamilton has found a way to do that here. If I'm Oren, I'm thinking very carefully about maybe just throwing all my cards in front of these 2 attacks. There doesn't seem to be a lot of value to letting Michael get the value from the double arsenal, and then you can head into the next turn in a very similar position and still continue to set up.
I agree. Yeah, I think that's basically what he's considering here, barring certain defense reactions in hand. I'm not even sure if this version of Bravo is running too many defense reactions. Definitely not like the the fridge briar that we've seen going around.
I guess there's another option, too, of just devoting one card and some equipment here, and that is what we're going to see as the first salvo from Oren. Going to cover up this Heatseeker in full with both Crown and Command and Conquer, and can look to make a similar play the next go-around, should he want to, with that Tectonic Plating and the Crater Fist being committed. Now, that is a lot of equipment put on the table early, but if you have the type of hand that can maintain tempo, there's a lot of justification for doing so.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. As the Lexi player, you're pretty happy either way, I think. Just getting rid of this equipment early on so you can leverage your really, really powerful, Three of a Kind turns, Rain Razor turns, without having to worry too much about all these equipment blocks. It makes for pretty good math later on if you can get to that point.
Yeah, and the second Heatseeker is going to hit successfully, and that means the trigger is going to go off. We're going to go ahead. Put a card face up into Arsenal.
That's a pretty good one.
Yeah, Red Drill Shot. That's very good at extending turns.
Yeah, I mean, Red Drill Shot, not going to be... Well, you still have some use here. I was going to say it doesn't have a ton of use. We still do have some block on Bravo's side. That Tech Plating as well as that Crater Fist. They do have some block here or there. So this Drill Shot is still threatening. The on-hit effect is not nothing.
I think we see our first Codex over in the hands of Michael Hamilton. That could be a nice way to get the turn started. Death Touch also available. So let's see if Michael Hamilton wants to make some blocking decisions here based on maybe getting max value out of that Codex.
Looks like this is just a Tech Plating activation.
Yeah, nice way to fill up that pitch zone, maybe to fuel a Nothos, maybe to just go ahead and sink some resources into a dominated attack. Looks to be the case. Bravo indicated. And what is the follow-up here? How big is our dominated attack? Yeah, Spinal Crush.
This is a rough one, yeah.
Look, this is what Bravo does to you. If Bravo is able to keep these damaging on-hits turn after turn after turn after turn, it is very, very hard for Lexi to make any headway. Spinal Crush almost certain to phenomenally brick Michael Hamilton's turn.
This is rough. This is one of the worst ones as the Lexi player. This is a card that I used to consider like the ninja killer, right? It has these words that say, lose and can't gain go again.
It's the everything killer. Like, who wants to lose go again? It's such a critical ability.
It's so
in Flesh and Blood.
And Lexi's just like basically built around that, right? It's on her bow. It's like what makes the deck hum. And yeah, it is absolutely turn killing.
Yeah, so we're apt to see, I would say, a well-loaded Arsenal is my expectation. Going to go ahead and use Voltaire to make sure we're prepped for the next turn, but maybe a single arrow turn here from Michael Hamilton. And again, if the Bravo can continue to find that kind of output, that kind of disruptive output, things are good. You keep that train rolling, you keep Lexi's life total going down, you mitigate how much she can do on her turn. The moment, though, you don't find those kind of options, trouble starts to mount. Now, what I believe I see is a triple blue Crippling Crush.
Oh, no.
I think. I'm not 100% sure on the color of those other cards. If it is triple blue, we may be looking at dominated Crippling Crush. But we will see. We will see when we get back to Oren's turn. We'll also see what Michael Hamilton can put together here. It does find a nice high damage turn with Battering Bolt.
Yeah, a 7 Battering Bolt. That's not nothing off the back of a Spinal Crush turn, to be honest, especially with a deck that traditionally goes very, very well wide. Going tall for one turn, it's not too bad. And this is the point where Oren basically has to see what's in his hand, because Battering Bolt does have a pretty strong on-hit effect that forces discards.
Often forgotten about, by the way. Battering Bolt often uses a popper, and we rarely consider this. But I think Oren's hand is Battering Bolt proof.
Okay, yeah, if it's all just like attack actions and non-attacks, it should be fine, right? This Battering Bolt's a card that preys on like instants and other, adjacent cards like, resources, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and Oren is going to take it. And that last card I couldn't make out in his hand was Starstruck, and he's going to reveal it. And that alongside of this available Seismic Surge means that Michael Hamilton is in for a world of hurt when we head back to his turn. There's going to be 8 total resources available. Seismic Surge at the ready. We know what's coming here as we head to Michael Hamilton's next turn. It is more disruption, more frustration, and no real way to cover it up.
I know exactly how Oren is feeling, by the way, being in this situation. It just, you're like champing at the bit. You're like, I got it all planned out. I'm just need to go through the motions. And
Bravo time.
It's Bravo time, yeah.
Pitch a couple blues. And yes, it is time to be crippled. Crippling Crush coming through for that massive. Yeah, that die's not going to be big enough. You're going to need a couple of those.
Yeah, right.
Go search out another one. And there is
Get a 6 in
11
there.
big damage headed the way of Michael Hamilton. Dominated on hit. Discard not just 2 cards, 2 random cards.
Yeah, the random part is, I mean, 2 cards is a lot, but the random part is like what really, really seals it. It really can just absolutely destroy your turn. The fact that it's dominated is just, and I think this is what Michael is thinking right now. Like, maybe I just take it. What should I commit a card
There's
and have
no
a
good answer.
have
Like,
one card hand?
We've all been in this spot where, like, well, if I just give, a 3 block here, and then I keep this card, and then if I hit it turns out all of your options are bad.
Yeah,
Absolute disaster either way.
like, I can see a situation here where you just take the 11, right? Like, the only thing you're doing is mitigating it by 3, and your hand just goes down by 2. And it's like you discard 2 random cards. That means you're left with 1 random card in your hand plus your drill shot and arsenal.
Yeah, the saving grace for Hamilton here, and why I think I am in favor of giving up a card, and the decision is very close, and I think that's what we see Michael Hamilton debating right now. As that life total gets lower, you start to reach those danger zones. We talk about it all the time.
That's
Bravo
true.
with access to dominate could just kill you. Very, very scary.
Yeah.
And if you put 3 defense in front of this, you go ahead, take 8 damage, go down to 16, have the drill shot to fire off, and you can arsenal. But Hamilton is saying, no, Brian, you're an idiot. I'm the world champion. I will tell you how we play this. We're just going to give 2 random cards, and then we're going to see what he can do on his next turn.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's just, trying to make the best of a bad situation. This is kind of like a luck and a prayer here.
Yeah, and it's an interesting spot because maybe there is a configuration of this dice roll that Hamilton is happy with, and he knows he can get a maximum turn out of it. And maybe he's saying, well, I'm kind of far behind. I need to hit. Like, I need to actually find some purchase into this game. If I don't win this dice roll and get rid of the right cards, I'm just in trouble. I don't know how I'm going to win this game. So maybe a calculated risk here from Hamilton. We'll see what 2 cards hit the bin and what he's able to put together as the clapback against Oren. And it looks like a Death Touch and a Bolton Shot going to head the way of the graveyard.
Interesting. Likely not.
Rainrazor's Searing Shot, 2 cards left in hand.
Okay, Rainrazor's Searing Shot. He does have a Tunic available right there. So this could be a turn where he can play out all 3 cards without.
This isn't bad.
Yeah.
I think that went about as well as you could expect it to go. The Tunic is going to go ahead, use Voltaire, load up that Searing Shot, give it go again, fire it, and now we know Rainrazor's at the ready. Not bad. Oh, this may have actually even been plus. Is that true?
I think it might be, right? Because
so
has base 4.
Hamilton, again, being much smarter than me, calling me an idiot, is saying, I could go ahead and dump my entire hand in this turn. Sure. I would much rather set up for a big turn. I'd rather slow down a little bit.
I like this. I like this play. If that's his idea, is just to save this drill shot for later, for a turn where he can maybe do some sort of Rain Razors, 3 of a kind stuff. I think that might be the path to victory in this situation. He's been on the back foot the entire game.
Yep. He needs a big turn.
Yeah.
The problem is, this requires no response from Oren. Oren can just go ahead and take all this damage. And to be fair, he could have taken all the other damage too. But if Oren has another big hand here, anything that can be dominated with a disruptive effect, I don't know if Hamilton's going to get the chance. He may just die before he gets the chance to go ahead and use this arsenal that he has built up.
13 is precarious, right? Hamilton, though, once again, like, he's setting himself up for the best possible scenario. He does have that Rain Razors in the back pocket, and all you need is like another card here or there to have a truly explosive turn. Bravo has been consistently being like, hey, you can only block with 1 card anyway. So, like, whether you like it or not, you're really not going to be able to block with too much. We'll see what he does here. I mean, he's got a full grip going into this turn, so you got to think. Yeah, you got to think he's going to
Bravo
dominate.
activation, that's pretty scary. What is the on-hit? How devastating is it to Hamilton's turn? Are there any outs?
If it's another Spinal Crush. Oh, Starstruck. Okay.
Starstruck coming through, and it's going to all depend on how much block Hamilton can muster here, how effective this Starstruck is going to be.
Yeah, I mean, like, looking at Michael's side, right, he's got a lot of 3 blocks in hand, of course. You really don't want to block with that New Horizon in this situation. It doesn't come up all that much, but if you do block with New Horizon, if New Horizons is destroyed, your entire arsenal is gone.
Yep.
So I think everything except for New Horizon gets in here, yeah.
And Hamilton trying to mitigate the effect of this card as much as possible. It's going to be blocked for 5. So 5 is going to be the number for the Starstruck effect. Crush is live.
Yeah, this is
Hornet's Sting does a damage here.
All right. I mean, like, hey, that's not nothing, right? Like, just chipping him down a little bit. Every point of life really, really counts, especially in a matchup like this where it's going to come down to, like, the razor's edge here. I do like the block with Remorseless. I think that is one of the least impactful on hits in the Lexi deck against Bravo. So just it's not as a threatening card as something like Endless Arrow or something like that. So yeah, we're really coming down to it. Looking at Michael's hand, I do see
It's CNC. That's got to be the play
spicy
here.
CNC, yeah.
Everything else in his entire deck, I believe, is going to be shut off by that Starstruck effect. So it was fortunate to find a CNC at that time and be able to make some blocks using that. Just has to go ahead, turn up the Rain Razors, and it is time to play CNC.
Yep, Command and Conquer coming in. Not really that threatening of a Command and Conquer, right? Like, Oren doesn't have a card in his arsenal, so he doesn't really care about the on-hit effect as much. Like, right here, he's basically just considering about, like, how much do I want to preserve my life? How much do I have in my hand to maximize my turn, my clap back, and what can I get rid of in this situation? And whatever he gets rid of is just basically, like, extra.
I think that Starstruck did the job. It did exactly what it was supposed to do.
Yep.
It stole Michael Hamilton's turn away, left him with only one option, an option that isn't really all that impressive. And again, as Bravo, it's all about stringing these turns together. If Oren one more time has a hand that can offer that disruptive crush effect, Hamilton remains in trouble. This Command and Conquer is not doing anything to get him out of it. If, though, Oren finally takes a turn off and this Command and Conquer either is blocked and Oren just comes back with a Nothos or something, then Hamilton can say, all right, I have a chance. You're at 15. Let's see what this Lexi deck can do and try and put some damage together. And we do see Oren reaching for a couple cards here.
And I think this is definitely one of the paths to beat Lexi, right? You just keep her off her game, make it so she can't do what she wants to do, and Oren's done a fantastic job of this from the start of this game. Like, Lexi really hasn't been able to do those big Lexi turns that she's known for. Even when Michael has, like, prepped himself for the situation, right? He's got his Rain Razors, he's got his Arrow and Arsenal, and yeah, Oren is just going to take the 6 on the chin because he can, right? He's like, I can just take this. I don't really care.
Yep. And again, what does that tell you? There's probably cards in hand to
gonna
be played.
hurt.
And
Yeah.
if you're Hamilton, you are
no.
begging, please do not dominate this attack. Do not have a number that I can't fathom taking. And like, there is that New Horizons. Sure, you can put that in front, but then you lose 2 cards from your arsenal. And it's going to be so hard to come back from that point. So what is the play here from Oren? How big is this massive, massive Bravo going to push across the table?
Yeah, like, he kept a full grip. Like, you got to know he's got something really spicy in his hand.
For sure.
As a Lexi player myself, this is a situation where it's like, yeah, this is going to hurt. Like,
because there are a lot of, like, half blocks available on that turn as well. You certainly could have just put 1 card in front of it. If you're keeping all 4 cards in the face of that Command and Conquer, it's telling you you want all 4 cards.
Yeah, this is going to be a big dominate, I would guess. We'll see how big and how debilitating it is, but I mean, there's a lot of them. We've seen Starstruck, we've seen Spinal Crush, we've seen Crippling Crush. There's a handful of these really powerful crush effect cards that Bravo's rocking, and we've only seen a smattering of them so far. This has been a fast game, honestly.
Yeah, absolutely. The other thing that could be going on here is defense reacts. Certainly
true.
could have defense reacts in hand, trying to save those for a future turn. And in that case, we may see some lower output, maybe surprisingly low output from this Bravo. If it's something like an Anothos, I think that's problematic. I really want to know, can you offer 8? It feels like that's the big question on this turn. Like, if this was a massive, dominated, crippling crush type turn, this is a no-brainer. It's an easy decision. Ooh. The bigger question for me is if it's a lesser turn, how's it look? Can you get to that lethal breakpoint where you demand a card from Michael Hamilton? Going to start off with a Grandeur, going to be put through that tectonic plating.
Even something like a Terra Sunder will get there. Like, Bravo's got a lot of options. But yeah, you do raise a good point. Maybe his hand is a bit more defensive here.
And it is time for Bravo.
We see the Dominate, though. We see the Dominate token coming on board here. And let's see what he's going to slap on the table.
Double Seismic at the ready for the next turn, too. So unlikely to be any reprieve for Hamilton as we head into that. And it looks like it's going to be a disable here, and I believe that's a blue disable.
I think it is, yeah. And a blue disable, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it comes in for 7, right? I think red's 9 and then 8 and 7. So this one, not as threatening as it could have been. Like, that's my first inclination here. It does hurt the arsenal a little bit. So on Crush Effect, they put a card from their arsenal on the bottom of their deck. but they get to choose, right? It's not a random
Yep.
card. So, like, Michael gets to pick here. So this is not a big game-ending a swing, right? It's
No.
not going to take away Michael's turn.
This is a decent middle-of-the-road turn, I think. It wasn't a slam dunk for Oren. There are many spots where he just runs away with this game if he has the right card. But Bravo has to miss eventually, right?
Yep.
And this is a quasi-miss, I would say. It is not the best possible effect, but it is still disruptive. It is still annoying for Hamilton. It is going to take that Rain Razors out of Arsenal, and now we have to see what Hamilton can put together. And it's critical that there is good offense here because there are those 2 Seismic Surges ready to go on the next turn. So there's a lot of potential. Pitch 1 card, keep 1 card in hand. If you get away with only blocking with 2 cards, there's massive turns available for Bravo on the swing back. So Hamilton really needs to offer some large damage numbers to get out of this one okay.
Yeah, Bravo's at 9 here. Definitely going to see like a 3-arrow turn. This one has a decent on-hit effect, right? I mean, a Blood Rat Pox isn't nothing, especially when
It depends. It depends if you're trying to win the game next turn. If you're Oren, you may just be able to ignore that.
Not care about it. I mean, at 4, that is not out of the question at all. And Oren, I mean, we haven't seen a lot of defense reactions out of him so far. So, like, this 5 could demand multiple cards, right? If he wants to block it out, right? He might not. Like you said, he might just be like, hey, I can leverage my life as much as I can and really, really go all in and try to win on my next turn. And I think if we see multiple Blood Rat Poxes on Oren's side this turn, that is likely his game plan.
Yeah, there's another problem here for Hamilton. And this game just, frankly, has not gone Hamilton's way thus far. He had an all-red hand here. He pitched a red Bolton shot. He blocked with a red hamstring shot. He's firing off a red arrow here. I bet almost anything that last card in his hand is a red card. So not what you wanted to see at a critical juncture. Maybe this is just a turn where Hamilton is trying to present lethal or quasi-lethal with the help of that drill shot. Maybe he'll just go ahead and pop this infecting shot and try and have a 6-card hand one more time. I think, though, there's a high possibility that this New Horizon has to be committed on the next turn.
Yeah.
And that's going to influence Hamilton's decisions a lot here as far as what the next arrow is.
Yeah, for sure. I think if you think you're going to have to block with this New Horizon, you want to just run out your entire arsenal. You don't want to have to, take that hit here.
Yeah, and it is time for a little bit more defense, and it's going to be these 2 pieces of equipment committed here.
Full block.
Yeah, full block.
So he's respecting that Blood Rat Pox.
And there is that drill shot coming out. And I think he knew that was coming, so why not give the equipment now? And now this is just 4 vanilla damage. And at 9 life, you have to think about taking it if your hand setup is pretty good. And with those 2 Seismic Surges, it's hard to believe it isn't, and he does, in fact, take it. So this feels like the ball game right here, Kel. If Oren puts together a big, dominated turn, that could be it for Michael Hamilton's hopes at being back-to-back national championship.
Yep. I mean, those 2 Seismic Surges, I think, are saying a lot here. 2 Seismic
Grandeur
Surges.
Valai coming in huge potentially on this turn.
Yeah, pretty spicy pick, honestly. I haven't seen too many Guardian decks running that, but I'm a fan. And
yeah, I think the last time Bravo took down a Calling, actually there was also a Grandeur in the Champions deck. So
nice.
Maybe there's some relation to Grandeur and top-notch performances as a Bravo. Let's see how Oren's playing this turn out. Is there the activation of Bravo? Is there the threat in hand?
Yeah.
Hamilton's hand looks good, by the way. 3-of-a-kind Codex.
So this is a blue Thunderquake.
Yep. Time for another Seismic Surge. 2 resources floating.
Seismic Surge is interesting. Like, he's setting up for a future turn, which means he might not think he can get the kill this turn. That's kind of what it tells me. Or maybe he's just maximizing his value and just kind of like playing through all of the steps here.
Yeah, and it's a Nothos coming through, so not able to gain any value from those Seismic Surges, just a Nothos as the threat. Now, this is going to ask for a card from Hamilton. What does that tell you about this last card in hand, Kel? What are we doing where we want to actually come in with a Nothos here as opposed to something like trying to get that Thunderquake out? Red D-React is my first guess.
It can't be a pummel, right? Like, I anytime I see a 2 floating and a hammer, I'm just like, at 4 health.
Yeah, it feels like pummel. It feels like pummel. You're right.
Like a red pummel would do it. I honestly don't know if he's running pummel in his deck.
I don't either. We haven't seen any thus far, but now as soon as you said it, I'm a big idiot. It feels like a pummel.
Like, as a longtime Flesh and Blood player, it's just like 2 floating. I'm like, I don't know. I got to respect it. I don't know if they're running it, but I got to respect it.
Here's the thing, though, about a pummel. I don't think Hamilton can play around it. If he gives his whole hand to this Anothos,
for sure.
Game's over anyway. So I think you just have to say, all right, show it to me. But we'll see. We'll see what Hamilton has on tap here. I mean, I guess we could give the whole hand plus New Horizons. But then the problem is Oren just, if it is a pummel, arsenals the pummel, and then plays the next turn with
exactly.
the same cycle.
Yeah, exactly.
That is the pummel conundrum in a nutshell.
And being at 4 is like, the danger zone, right? And especially with an Othos coming in at 6, you can black 2 and be like, all right, you got the pummel or not, right? But if they have it, and it's red, it is exact lethal, right?
It makes so much sense. And Hamilton's having the same thoughts I am. Like, well, I haven't seen any pummels. Maybe that means this is a defensive Bravo. But this Bravo has thrown haymaker after haymaker at you. It sure seems like a pummel.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't seen any defense reactions from this Bravo. This is a big smashing Bravo. Or this is a dominate Bravo, right?
Yeah, grandeur kind of points you in that direction as well, that you just want to keep firing those dominated attacks. So Hamilton going to take up that textbook pose, head and hands one more time as he weighs his options. Is this the end of Michael Hamilton's U.S. national champion reign, or does he have one more miracle in the bank to snatch victory from the jaws of defeat?
I love how interesting and pivotal this attack is. Do you respect the pummel? And Michael, holding 3 cards, tells me, all right, I think I respect this pummel.
No, I just don't know if he actually can. This is for 6.
There's a couple 2 blocks in here.
Okay, this looks like a block for 6. And now that's actually pretty interesting because you're covering up the initial damage of a Nothos. If it's red pummel, you're dead.
Yeah.
You're saying, okay, I think you might have a yellow pummel. And if it's yellow pummel, do you save it? I think you do, right? And Hamilton may have just made a very nice soul read here on this attack. Let's see what the ultimate result of this is. It is a pummel.
It's a pummel. Yep.
It's what color?
So here, I think it's a red pummel, but I think he ended up blocking for a total of 7 here. We have 3 from the arrow, and then 2 from non-attack, 2 from Death Touch.
You are correct.
So I think he blocked 7.
Take
3, go to 1.
Pummel. It was the right debate. Certainly, Oren had to think, do I want to save this? It's not lethal. I just had the numbers a little twisted.
I mean, it was the exact soul read, too. Like, Michael called it exactly, right? And here we have it. And I think it was an interesting play just to run it out and take Michael down to 1. Michael down to 1 is a very rough spot to be in against a hero that has, dominate on board.
Yeah,
right?
I think for resource efficiency, you just have to do it, and you assume on this next turn you're able to put up any dominated attack. At the very least, you claim a card and New Horizons, and you can probably defend on the next turn. So this is pretty simple math from Oren at this point. You can defend if you need to. If you have lethal, you probably just stick it out there. It gets a little bit more complicated if you want to set up like a Nothos turns, but let's see what the defense is on this Falcon Wing.
Yeah, if I'm Bravo here, I'm just thinking like, hey, I need to just dominate a 6 or 7, right? Because you have a 3 block from hand from Lexi plus the 2 from New Horizons, only 5. You only need to leak 1, right? You only need to leak 1.
It seems simple. It seems simple from this point.
But you never know, right? You never know what kind of tech Lexi's running. We talked about defense reactions earlier, and most Lexis are only running that frailty trap, but you never know. You can't discount it.
Oren, though, looking to play cautiously, thinking he's got what he needs in hand potentially to end this game. Going to go ahead and commit a card to defense. It is a Command and Conquer, flashy Command and Conquer.
Yeah, very spicy Command and Conquer there. I mean, this has go again.
Codex of Frailty on the backside.
And this will affect Bravo, right? So Bravo will have to pick a card from their
block
bin.
Looks pretty smart to me at this point. There could have been some real trouble here.
Yeah. Interesting choice with the Searing Shot. Though I don't know if Michael has a ton of options.
No, Searing Shot's perfect here. It's lethal.
It's lethal, yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly what you need, and you need it to cost nothing. It needed to be exactly Searing Shot. And now, are things kind of complicated for Oren? Like, do you have to give a card here? What are you going to go ahead and put in your arsenal? Do you have some way to fire off? Is your next turn just a Nothos? Is that going to be enough? So a lot of questions here for Oren to answer.
Yeah, not quite as cut and dry as it was just a few plays ago. And Oren is kind of just laying all of his attack actions out, trying to possibly decide which is the best option to put into the arsenal here. Maybe one that he could feasibly dominate and then attack with, but a lot of these cost quite a bit,
Yeah, everything's face up at this point. So Oren, I think, just making the most mathematically sound decision, looking for the largest number he could offer. Command and Conquer was my first guess. I don't know exactly what is available, but having both, a nice balance of a solid 6-power attack, but also that disruption that Lexi is really going to have to respect, especially on a turn with a Ponder coming up here. There's going to be a 2-card arsenal, or excuse me, a 1-card arsenal for sure. So it's nice to challenge that with the Command and Conquer.
Yeah, and Oren also has to discard a card too. Like, I mean, that's part of the effect of Codex of Frailty. So he gets to pick a card, put it in his arsenal, but he also has to discard a card from his hand. And if he's rocking like a lot of like blues, then it could be a situation where he's not able to do this. It all depends on what was in his hand. So he did have a Crippling Crush. So discarding the Crippling Crush, it's a red.
Yeah, that seems easy.
Something that's he's not even going to be playing anyway. And then Michael, of course, just following up with this lethal, like you said, Brian.
Yep.
This must-block arrow.
Imposing Visage hopping in front of that. Going to take 2 damage is Oren. And I believe what is left here is a Seismic Surge at the ready, a blue card, and a Buckling Blow in arsenal. So Oren just going to say, I'm offering 8. That's what I have. That's all I can do. You're going to have to give me 3 cards in hand. Maybe you can keep 1 card in your arsenal. Maybe you can give me New Horizons, but then I'm getting a card anyway. So I think the path forward is pretty clear. The problem is there is that frailty.
Yeah.
So it's going to be just 7 here.
Yeah, so, I mean, I think this frailty could really come into play, depending on what Michael wants to block with in hand, because he does still have that New Horizon, right? Blocking with the New Horizon is bad. Like, he will lose his arsenal if he does this, but it could make the math work a lot better, right? Because if he's got a bunch of 2 blocks in his hand, he can go, like, 3 block, 2 block, plus the New Horizon to cover it up.
I think it represents a virtual 3 cards anyway, right?
Yeah.
Like either you give up the New Horizons and the arsenal, and in that case, you probably just want to save the New Horizons for a future turn where it may come in clutch against a small dominated attack. But at 1, kind of doesn't matter. Like any dominated attack feels good enough at this point. So it's all about finding the most output. How do you get cards out of this Bravo's hand? That's all you care about on this next turn.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I mean, at this point for Lexi, Michael just needs to have a turn where he can demand cards from Bravo. Otherwise, he's just going to get dominated. That's just kind of how I see this kind of shaking down.
I think he needs to have every turn where he demands. Like, he's just not in a position where he can't just go ahead and offer significant damage anymore. And I will tell you, if Hamilton makes it through this turn, can demand 2 cards from Bravo on the next turn, I kind of like where he's at. Like, I actually think he may have turned the corner at that point.
Born's at 3, right? It's like 3 is like very low. We've been talking about how Michael is at 1, but I mean, Oren's sitting at 3. It's very close. It's actually a surprising. Well, I wouldn't say surprisingly close, but Michael's been on the back foot almost this entire game, and he's done a remarkable job of staying in it here. This is a very, very pivotal block, right?
The available hands are so interesting for Michael, just based on the cards that are here. I don't know what's in Arsenal, but it does look like he is going to commit 3 cards here. Keep the New Horizons, card in hand, plus the card in Arsenal.
Yeah, what card does he still have in his hand that he's thinking about keeping? I saw
I thought it was a Heat Seeker.
Okay, yeah, I saw the Heat Seeker. He's got a Heat Seeker. He's got one of the blue ice cards. I can't tell exactly which one it is.
Looks like Winter's Bite,
Winter's
not
Bite.
100%.
And then he's got another arrow plus 2 arrows. Okay.
Okay, and this is going to be covered up completely.
Yeah.
Full block. Frailty token going to go away. No arsenal available for Oren. 2 cards available here for Michael Hamilton.
I really like Michael keeping this New Horizon here. It's like some slight protection against Dominate. It makes it so that the Dominate needs to be at least a certain amount to ensure a kill.
Yeah, there are some blues, I guess, where if you dominated them, you're keeping a tiny bit of insulation. And here is now Infecting Shot for 5. What is the answer from Oren? Do we have a 2-card block? Do we have a 1-card block, play the next turn with only 3 cards, try and find lethal?
Yeah, it could be that situation you were talking about earlier.
Where that Blood Rot Pox.
Yeah, tries to just win through the Blood Rot Pox.
I don't see it in hand here. I think this may have to be 2 cards plus a Nothos and an Arsenal on the next turn. Or maybe even 6-point Anothos instead, so Tectonic Plating plus Anothos demand 2 cards from Hamilton.
I think you might be right here. I think for a second he may have considered like a single block and be like, hey, can I maybe push the win here?
Yeah,
but
I think he's got a Pummel in hand, and Pummel is a card that can complicate that decision for sure.
Yeah, Pummel being only a 2-block, right? And it's also a card that, if it's the red one, doesn't pitch very well. But
it also has that sneak attack value, right? Where you can say, well, what if I just go ahead and keep some resources here and threaten Michael with this card? Do you want to keep it in Arsenal for a future turn? I think a really interesting point here in the game for Oren.
Yeah, trying to maybe survive through this and sandbag it in the Arsenal for a future turn. I can definitely see that. I mean, Michael already saw 1 pummel, right? We knows he's running the pummels, and so if that happens, if that's the case, Michael definitely has to be thinking about that. And like the threat of pummel is as scary as pummel itself. And it could put Michael into a situation where he blocks more than he otherwise would have. Here we do have just the full block, full 6 block. So it looks like Oren isn't going to do that, trying to win through that Blood Rot Pox. He's respecting the Blood Rot Pox and opting to keep this 2-card hand.
Yeah, I think that's smart because this Anothos, no matter what you do through it, it does represent 2 cards. You just go ahead and pitch, load it up, you get an arsenal on the next turn, and then you hope to get to play in a privileged position, and you say, how bad can your 2-card hand actually be? All you can do is you have to pay for Voltaire. I know that much, right? And then you have to go ahead and fire an arrow. If you fire an arrow, I can do the same thing on the next turn, worst case scenario, except this time I have an arsenal. And that might mean you're able to set up Anothos plus pummel if that is in fact a pummel headed to the arsenal.
Anothos coming in for 4 is very, I mean, it's in this situation, it's almost as good as coming in for 6, right? Michael's at 1. He's just threatening those break points. He's demanding 2 cards. And Michael's hand looks really solid from a Lexi standpoint. He has, he's got a bolt and shot. He's got endless arrow. He's gonna have to lose half of it, right?
Well, he has access to the New Horizons on this turn. And I think
true.
I think that is a very complicating point. Like, we don't know what that last card is in Oren's hand, but that is a point in favor of making this Anothos go for 6 rather than trying to preserve that arsenal, because then you demand 2 cards plus New Horizons either way. Like, you're just 2 cards and not New Horizons, but you're demanding 2 cards.
Yeah.
And what Hamilton is capable of doing with 2 cards is very different from what he's capable of doing with 3 cards. And there you see New Horizons reach for.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Leverage this New Horizon. It's like the perfect time to do so. You don't have your arsenal active, so you're not really losing out on that. And this is, so late in the game, the odds of you actually getting a double arsenal at this point is
slim. Very slim.
Though it looks like he's still in the tank about
still
it, right?
Still debating.
It's still like close, right?
The question is how good is the 3-card hand, right? Like, if you don't actually improve your output all that much, and like you're setting up in the future for maybe single arsenal because you have like an all red hand, then you can see where the New Horizons isn't such a clear block, and you may just want to give up 2 cards instead, save it for a future turn.
I can't help but think that Michael is thinking in future turns, thinking like, hey, this New Horizon's really valuable against Dominate, and do I want to leverage it here and have maybe a potentially better turn, a turn that can get me the tempo, or do I just want to be more conservative? And I think it's a really, really close call. It's not an easy call to make here. And we see, Michael Hamilton, world champion, still, in the tank on this block. And, we're at the point here where Michael, to get top 8, Michael essentially needs to win this, right?
Oh, yeah. There's no way he can top 8 without winning.
And so this is incredibly important for Michael. This is, could be the absolute block of the tournament for him.
I think you're right. I think everything hinges on this decision. You have to get this exactly right. And how many good outcomes are available to you? How do you go ahead and make a real turn next go around? I feel like it's really hard to see the pitch strips on these cards. I feel like Hamilton might have found another heavy red hand one more time at possibly the worst moment for it.
It looks very red. I can't help but think that possibly I see a Bolton shot there, and I also see an infecting shot. I think one of them might not be red. Like, this Bolton shot might be a yellow, but it's difficult to tell. But if it is a yellow, right, a yellow into 2-0 arrows is, like, it works.
That's good. Yeah. And now seeing this, that looks like it may be a blue infecting shot to me. So it does appear that Hamilton had options on this turn as far as pitch count. So does choose to use that New Horizons. What is the play here? How much value is Hamilton able to extract from this 3-card hand? We know it has to be good. It has to go ahead and get him back into a full grip. Maybe demand everything from Oren. Yep. You were right. It was a yellow Bolton shot. And Endless Arrow going to be the card loaded up, fired with a resource still floating here. And I think this is a great first step to demanding 2 cards from Oren.
You have to respect the Endless Arrow. Like, you can't just give him this value. And this is exactly what he needs. He needs to be like, hey, give me some cards out of your hand. I haven't seen very many defense reactions to this game, so this could just be an easy 2 cards from hand. We haven't seen a lot of stuff like Sink Below.
No, it would be a hell of a time for a Sink Below. That would be absolutely game-breaking in this scenario. But we see Oren reaching for 2 cards.
Yep.
Going to have to cover this one up. One resource floating from that pitch Bolton shot. Does it represent another zero-cost arrow that Hamilton can +1 and ask for more cards? If it's something like a searing shot.
If I remember right, I was peeping his hand. I think it might be a red searing shot.
That's the perfect card.
As the final
it's
card.
the actual perfect card that you could have in this scenario.
And I think I love this Endless Arrow first because it's kind of a
deceptive.
Juke. It's kind of a juke.
It's
He's like,
very
hey,
deceptive.
This is a powerful card. A lot of people really want to block this out.
If this is a searing shot, I think Michael Hamilton has pulled some magic here.
All right, let's see if I'm right. Let's see if I was able to.
It is +1 on the searing shot. Going to come through. It's a red, and that means 5. That means you block that with 2 cards unless you have a D-React. And there's almost no way Oren had the patience of a Saint in this instance to go ahead and save a D-React. And if this takes the full hand, now you're passing back to Hamilton, and he's coming at you with 4 cards. And that's a terrifying, terrifying spot to be in.
It's all about tempo, right? Like, Michael, this is not a turn where it's like, hey, I'm going to kill you with damage. This is a turn where, hey, I want all of your cards, and then next turn I'm going to come at you with the full force of Lexi. We actually haven't seen too many of the really powerful cards from Lexi. He's still rocking those 3 of a kinds, those Rain Razors. So his deck's still packing a lot of heat. So getting this tempo back is incredibly, incredibly big.
Kel, this is such a brilliant play from Hamilton because if that Endless Arrow hits, Oren's actually in a much better spot. Like, if you just block with 1 card, save a card, you can come back with a Nothos, and you're way better off than you are going ahead and giving multiple cards here. But as I say that, Oren has 1 card peeled off, and I am so curious what is actually happening here.
Well, we saw him play Grandeur earlier. Do you think he's playing another 0 block, perhaps like a heart or something like that?
I don't think that's the case. I mean, maybe there's a question of like a large direct. No, it is just going to be 2 cards put in front, and that is what's expected. But that is the moment, Kel. That is how Michael Hamilton gets back into this game. This 4-card hand is huge. If he finds gas, he's in a great spot, and I see a Codex, I believe. Blue card available. Looks like Winter's Bite is going to go ahead and fuel this turn. Maybe double Infecting Shot, or is that a Bolton Shot as the second card?
So I think Bolton Shot is the second card. This is a blue Infecting Shot, which it looks like he's going to go ahead and pitch here.
And maybe that's actually not a Codex. That may actually be...
I think that's the on-hit Frailty arrow.
Yeah, I think you are correct. So, okay, a little bit Tempered Expectations, not the most powerful card. But... Blue Bolton Shot. That's fine.
Oh, okay.
Getting this turn a little bit wide here.
Interesting. I don't want to say his hand was a little bit of a whiff, but it is a pretty blue-heavy hand. Like, this is a blue Bolton Shot. He had a blue...
How many red-heavy hands have we seen this morning? He's got to draw all the blues at some point.
It's going to even out. This is quite interesting. I mean, if it is super, super blue-heavy, he still has that quiver. I mean, he still has something.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if he wants to take a risk on the quiver here. If he just goes ahead and fires out some more consistent arrows, is that Winter's Bite in hand going to come into play and demand a card here? That makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah.
Maybe at least get Bravo down to a 1-card hand. That could be a pretty nice spot.
Yeah, perfect call. I mean, Winter's Bite's great here. I mean, it just demands a card, right? Like, it doesn't matter what color it is. It's just like, hey, you got to get something out of your hand. Like, resource discard, yeah. And that's exactly what this card's in the deck for. It's just, I want a card from you.
Yeah, last activation here, and here is our final arrow. Does look like this is a red Withering Shot, so 6 damage represented, and it's got to be double blocked again. So we'll do it all over again on the next turn. Same exact position for these 2 players. Michael Hamilton making Oren start to sweat here.
Oh, no. The thing is I would classify that as a weaker Lexi turn, right? And he was still able to demand all of the cards.
Dude, it's getting worse from here. This is a Codex. There is an Endless Arrow in hand, and now Oren 100% going to be put to the test. Does he have the defensive capabilities? And like we said, this is a defensive Bravo, an offensive Bravo. It doesn't seem to have those D-Reacts to bail himself out at this point. So now Premeditate going to not only set up this turn, but could set up the next turn. And I think Michael Hamilton has turned the corner here.
Yeah, I mean, giving +3 to this Endless Arrow, coming in for 7 possible go again, maybe 8 if he gives it the +1. Like, this is a lot, right?
Not bad.
7 go again. That's pretty good. That's
Not
pretty
bad.
good.
Offering a ponder on hit.
Like the on hit for the Endless Arrow is also pretty nasty, and we already saw that Oren really respects the Endless Arrow. He really wants to block it out, and this is one where it's like, to block it out, you got 3 cards.
You kind of can't unless you finally find D-React, which I don't believe is in the deck. And I will say, Unmovable.
We
put
do
forth.
have a blue
Okay,
unmovable.
so we do finally find that D-React. Here is that Codex of Frailty, though. That's going to go and get the worst 0 in the deck for Oren to face down. It is going to be Searing Shot loaded up. Ponder at the ready, Frailty at the ready. Time to fire that Searing Shot. Going to demand that card one more time, but this time 2 damage headed through, and that means that Oren falls down to a precarious 1, facing a Lexi that is going to Ponder 2 times. Go ahead, load up that arsenal,
Put the
and
best one
now you're facing a 5-card hand
no.
at 1. This is the nightmare situation. Michael Hamilton has potentially snatched victory from the jaws of defeat, potentially found a way to defend this national championship title at the last possible second. Can he go ahead and close this game and take out Oren with this finally 5-card hand?
Yeah, it really feels like at some point the Reaper was over on Michael's door, just kind of like knock, knock, knock. And now he's kind of sauntering on over to Oren's door, and he's like, knock, knock, knock.
Very back and forth game.
Yeah, and Michael, starting with card and arsenal, 4 cards in hand. Like, this is the best possible turn he's had in the last 3 turns. And the last 3 turns, he's basically demanded Oren's entire hand. And starting off, this is one card that I was like wondering,
Awesome.
This is probably the best case scenario. It's just a free, go again arrow from your arsenal. So this is like, hey, I can pump out minimum 3 arrows this turn.
If Hamilton can get 3 arrows wide with breakpoints, he will win.
Yeah.
Bottom line.
Those 4 attack, you need those 4 attack
Critical
arrows.
blue in hand. There is Remorseless with Go Again. That represents a breakpoint. 2 cards coming out of Oren's hand.
This is really getting down to it. Remorseless on hit effect doesn't matter. On hit, you die.
Yeah, and I think there is another unmovable in hand. And if this lines up right, can Oren one more time defeat the Reaper?
So here we have
2 cards put forth here. That's going to cover
5
it up.
block.
Next arrow is an endless arrow. 5 required. Going to go ahead and show
That
the
is
unmovable,
game.
and that gets the fist bump. And Michael Hamilton just pulled a freaking rabbit out of his hat there. Absolutely.